In this video, I thought I'd talk about the different belt colors in Taekwondo and how long it takes to become a black belt and what it means to be a black belt in Taekwondo. So, first of all, you will start out as a white belt in Taekwondo, and I think in most martial arts that is pretty common that a white belt is your starting point. The white belt signifies essentially emptiness or nothingness. It's meant to be that it's like you have a clean slate. You have no knowledge of Taekwondo coming into it. So your belt starts off white. The next belt that you would progress to is yellow belt. And there may or may not be stripes in between. And what I mean by a stripe is between every full belt color, there is usually a stripe that is added to the belt prior to getting to the next belt level. You don't just go from one full belt color to the next. For a variety of reasons. I mean, obviously schools want to be able to make money on the test fees, but there's also a lot of knowledge that you have to learn between each full belt. So it's too much to test for at one time, so it helps to partition the knowledge a little bit if you break it up into a few additional steps. But yellow belt, starting at white belt, then you move to yellow belt. The yellow, a lot of people think the yellow signifies the sun, but actually the yellow is meant to signify the earth and essentially like a seedling or a seed that is starting to grow out of the ground. So in other words, it's like your skills have started to take root, so to speak. They're now just starting to grow. So that is yellow belt. Moving up from yellow belt, you will get to green belt. And again, I know some Taekwondo schools do this a little bit differently, but and some like to add more colors along the way, but typically this is how you'll see things done. So from yellow belt to green belt, the green belt essentially represents the seedling growing large and now growing into a tree, for instance. So now, you know, it's taking root, it's growing bigger and stronger, basically growing bigger and stronger, and it's, you know, it's becoming something now. So again, it's symbolizing the development of your skills in Taekwondo. Up from green belt is blue belt, and the blue belt represents the sky. So this is now where your seedling, which is now growing into a tree, it's now reaching skyward. So this is the idea behind it. So blue being the sky, and now you're reaching skyward. After blue belt comes red belt, and red belt, again, some people think it represents blood or it represents danger. Different schools give different meanings to it. The school I trained at, red belt represented the sun. So now, you know, you're reaching skyward, and now here is the sun. So now, you know, again, further progressing outward here. After red belt comes black belt. All right, the last of the belts, you know, black belt, black being the unification of all the previous colors. Black represents the universe. It symbolizes completeness. It means that you are now whole, so to speak. You have now developed your skills to a level where you are proficient. But you have to keep in mind that black belt, in a Taekwondo school, an average Taekwondo school, it takes about 4 years of full-time training to go from white belt to black belt. And that's if you're training regularly and you're not taking any extended time off between, as a lot of students do. But a lot of people view black belt as you know, it should take 10 years to get black belt, or it should take 15 years to get black belt, or it should be really impossible to get black belt. And they fail to realize what the meaning of black belt is, and that is that you are an advanced beginner, essentially. So you have a firm grasp of all of the basics of Taekwondo, but you still have a lot of learning to do, right? Particularly teaching. So you can't look at a first degree, they call them Dan, first Dan black belt in Taekwondo as being somebody who is a grand master at the art, because that's not the case. You're an advanced beginner at first degree black belt. And in Taekwondo, you're not considered to be a master of Taekwondo until you reach fourth degree black belt. And as I mentioned in other videos, the pace slows down. So you make a lot of progress initially, but then as you get up higher in ranks, it takes longer and longer to reach the next rank. So by the time you get to first degree black belt, the time it takes you to go from first degree black belt to second degree black belt, let's say, is about 2 years. So in that same period of time, you probably went from white belt up to blue belt. So you probably progressed that many belts in 2 years, in your first 2 years. But when you're a first degree black belt, it takes you 2 years to get to second degree black belt. To go from second to third typically takes 3 years. To go from third to fourth typically takes 4 years, and it can be longer than that. So, you know, again, the time it would take you to go from a first degree black belt until you're a master is longer than the time it took you to go from white belt to black belt in the first place. You know, it's a much longer period of time. And as you start to get up higher in the ranks, it becomes less about, you know, what you can do with your hands and more about, can you teach, do you promote the martial art? You know, there are many other things that count for more than just, you know, how high can you throw a roundhouse kick, or, you know, how hard can you hit the heavy bag. It becomes, because now you're also getting up in age as well. So you find what happens is, as you get up in the ranks in Taekwondo or most martial arts, by the time you become a Grand Master, which in Taekwondo is 7th degree black belt or higher, you're usually somebody that's in your 40s or 50s by then, by the time you reach that rank, maybe in your 60s, and you're well past your prime at that point. So you're not physically, the fact that you are a Grand Master in Taekwondo does not make you a greater physical threat than you know, your 25-year-old first or second degree black belt. But what it means is that you've got a lifetime of knowledge in the martial art, and you have accumulated all of that knowledge. You have been teaching for many, many years, and you know, your knowledge base is incredible by that point in time, even if physically your skills have declined. So something to keep in mind. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, this guy's a 7th degree black belt, this guy's an 8th degree black belt, oh, you know, this guy's 9th degree black belt, he's the most dangerous person ever. And that's not the case. I mean, by the time you get up to those ranks, you are usually a senior citizen by the time you get up to there. And I mean, if somebody is claiming to be a 7th or 8th or 9th degree black belt and they're in their 20s, it's probably bogus, because there simply isn't enough time to get there. I mean, even if you started as a baby, you still wouldn't get there in time. So that would be silly. So anyway, I hope that helps with understanding the belts in Taekwondo. I know some other schools like to throw in an orange belt or a purple belt, but I think, you know, that's getting silly. It's getting carried away. Though the belts that I mentioned are usually the core belts that you will find in a Taekwondo school. And I hope that helps with the meaning behind them. Some schools provide different meanings. This is how I learned it. And again, first degree black belt is not a student that knows everything. They're an advanced beginner. They still have a lot of learning to do. But physically, first, second degree black belt, they are approaching, I would say, their prime as far as being the most physically dangerous opponents that you can come across. That's usually where you're going to find them. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thanks.